are you dressed up for the 4th of July? It's not the 4th of July yet.
Look at Sammy.
Did you get the memo? It's Green Day.
It was green today. You like the band, Green Day. It's not Red Day, but Sammy has her red dress on today. Look at that. It's Red Dress Saturday.
She's ready for the 4th, although we are a couple weeks early, aren't we?
Yes, we
couple weeks.
are.
Well, I'll show you some of her 4th pictures. A sneak preview of her 4th of July pictures that she made for her cards. She volunteers for Cards of Compassion, and we had to send them early so they could get sent to people before the 4th. So we've got to think well ahead of the actual holiday, and she just loves this dress as well as making videos.
She sure does. She loves being the star.
Like Sammy.
Right?
Look at the camera.
Right, Sammy?
Look at the camera.
Sammy loves...
You know, all the millennials want to buy homes. They're sad they can't afford a home. But then I see videos on YouTube of lots of people who purchase homes and they are house poor.
Oh my God.
They said they can't travel anymore. They can't even go out to dinner. They can barely even afford to eat.
Yeah, everything's so expensive when it comes to home improvement, when it comes to paying your mortgage, when it comes to just buying food. Everything has gone up. The prices have gone up so high that people can't afford
homes.
But
you know, when I look back to my childhood, we were house poor too. Were you?
Not really. I mean, we had a small house, so it was not, my parents weren't house poor. You had a bigger family, so you had to have a bigger house. And
I grew up in a family of 8 kids. I'm Sue.
And I'm Steve.
And we're aging joyfully. So we were all a year apart, so all 8 of us were at home the majority of my childhood. And we did have a large house. It was 6 bedrooms, which my parents, they didn't have it initially. They saved and saved and saved and were extremely tight with their money. Rumor was the house before that house, or I don't even know because I was on the younger end, but supposedly my father rented out our garage or a room, I don't even know, to a bookie, and he would come every day to use our phone and make and place bets. And I have no idea if that rumor is true. That's what the oldest one has said. My parents never said that. My parents never admitted to that. I just know they were extremely tight. They were on
What is the truth?
They were on a tight budget, and we had no money after the mortgage, which I think the mortgage was about $200 a month back then, before we hit the 80s of that Great Recession.
Right.
And then mortgages tripled. Unfortunately, my father did lose his job. We had to get a new house, and the mortgage tripled to $600 a month. I do remember that. That was a very, very stressful time. And that's what I'm thinking today. I think mortgages have tripled again because we've been having home repairs, and we put in new fiber, new internet, and the woman, they sent a saleswoman that we didn't know was coming with the installer, and she had just moved into a house, and I don't know, I happened to just say, how does that compare to your rent? I didn't ask her mortgage, I just said, how does that compare? And she said, what'd she say, do you remember?
I don't remember.
Her rent was $1,800 and her mortgage is $3,600.
Wow.
So, whereas I think mortgages recently could have been around $1,200 to $1,500, hers is triple if your mortgage was $1,200 before the pandemic, then it did triple, just like it did in the
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
Back then, interest rates were as high as 18%, whereas today
Right.
they're 6 to 7, but the cost of the homes.
Right, exactly. As mortgage rates go up, costs of homes usually go down, and vice versa. So when prices of homes come down, mortgage rates usually go up.
So we've had 3 things done on our house lately that ended up costing more than we thought. Not all of them cost, but home maintenance, when people talk about they want a home, we're dreaming of the day we could rent when it's not $1,800 to $2,000 or $3,000 a month to rent.
Right. That's outrageous. But having a home, there are some luxuries to having a home, but the upkeep, the mortgage, the taxes, the utilities,
Insurance and taxes keep going up.
All of that, keeps going up, and that's what hurts and takes a lot of your income. Plus, there's mowing the lawn. I don't care about what size home you live in. You're going to want to definitely have a lawn that's manicured.
Well, if you rent a house, a lot of times they do include that
Right.
because in Atlanta, I've read that we have the majority or the biggest percentage of corporate-owned rental properties in the
Right.
country. Corporations have bought up rentals and they buy up whole neighborhoods, and they typically do include lawn care in the rent. They have all these additional fees. Do you remember that video we made on renting? We went and looked at apartments thinking
Yes.
maybe we could downsize.
Yes.
And the 2-bedroom ran about $3,000 a month because they add in, I think there's a fee for garbage, a
Right.
fee for, I don't know what. They had
Everything.
they had a lot of fees tagged on it. Fee for maybe the fun room or the party room. I don't know. They had a lot of fees. So you have to ask the final cost, because they could say, what, I think it started at 8 for the 1-bedroom was like, I don't know, 1,500, ended up being like 2,000. I don't know. It was outrageous. It was like, okay, we're going to move into an apartment that's unaffordable. No, and that's what I've read about
Right.
boomers.
Right.
That most boomers stay in houses way beyond what they want because it's cheaper. They would downsize to something that's usually older and needs a lot of maintenance and a lot smaller and maybe louder, versus being unaffordable. They just can't do it, so they stay in their large homes and they stay
Right.
isolated.
Right, and it's a lot of work. I mean, if you're doing the work yourself, it's a lot. For all it takes to maintain a home, it's expensive. And boomers that hold on to their house that they raise children in, it's way too big for what they need, and it takes a lot of work. And since they can't do the home repairs themselves, they have to hire someone.
Well, no, I've read a couple things on that. One is they're just not doing the repairs. They're letting them fall, just not maintain them. And that's what my father did. He was getting older, and the house needed a lot of repairs when he did pass away. But the second thing is that if they did stay in their home 30 years, we never did because we moved all around the country. So this was surprising to me. One reason they can't afford to sell is because if you did stay in that home 30 years and you bought it for, people said something like a bag of peanuts. One millennial said that then you sell for 600 or whatever, 800 or a million. So if you stayed in that home since your kids were born, you have all those capital gains. If say you live in California and it's $1 million, $2 million house, and you paid that bag of peanuts to buy, which they have this, I don't know, this image that we didn't pay anything for our homes. And so you have those capital gains tax. We've never had that issue because we've moved so many times and we never made money on any house. We've lost or broke even on every single house we've owned.
Right. And so, it's nice to stay in one place. So our last home we were in for 14 years.
That was a record.
And that was our record.
And the reason we stayed so long was because the Great Recession hit and the prices plummeted and we couldn't afford to move.
Right.
We couldn't afford to take rock bottom prices and we couldn't afford to rent. So we were stuck. So actually we would not have stayed there that long if we didn't get the Great Recession.
Oh, true. That's very true.
So we're talking about the 3 things we did on our house. The first was we did change our internet to a more affordable one.
Right.
So that took several days because the guy came to install the same day with the salesperson, and that took 4 hours plus. I think it was probably 5. And then they had to come back another day to bury the fiber, and they ripped up the lawn I've been working so hard on for years. And it was finally looking good, and not anymore.
Right. They shot the fiber underneath the driveway. They put conduit in there first and then put the fiber through the conduit. And then they had to take it to the junction box on the side of the house. So, yeah, they ripped up some of the lawn in doing that. And Sue's been working on it all summer, all
For
year.
years.
Yeah, we finally had a nice lawn, and now we have a lawn with tire tracks and was ripped up, and the dirt was put back, and the grass was put, but it's going to take a while for it to grow back in.
Yeah, I didn't think about that when we switched. We were just so mad our bill going up every month.
Oh, yeah.
Just randomly with no knowledge, you just get a higher bill.
Yep.
But that was one thing. So that was free. Overall, that was free. We're going to save money. Second thing is we our lights in our kitchen has started going out one by one, and we have 6 lights. I'm going to show a picture of that right here. 6 lights. Lights, and when we got to 3 out, it was getting dark. We finally called the electrician. we knew that would be pricey.
And I've changed the bulbs in the lights, and they came back on for a little bit, and then they went out, and they were new bulbs. And I looked at the sockets; they were ceramic sockets, and so they could take pretty high wattage bulbs, and we were using low wattage conservative LEDs. And so, unless you go into the wiring, I really wouldn't know what the problem was. And I probably should have went a little bit deeper, but I didn't.
Well, we're going to make a video on that because we were almost taken for abuse for elderly, what is it called? Elderly fraud, elderly financial abuse. That's a whole nother video because they tried their hardest to rip me off. And they did rip us off on the lights, but we're going to that more in another video about elderly financial fraud or abuse. But the third thing was we painted the front hallway because we had a beautiful clock there, and it was heavy and hard to change twice a year. So the time was always wrong. So I sold it and then tried to fill in the hole and so when I took the clock down, I patched in the holes and did paint, but the paint didn't match and it looked bad, and the other wall across the hallway also looked bad, so we realized we had to paint the whole hallway, so we had to tape up the whole thing. It took hours to tape it up and paint, and I've got that video, which I'm going to try to zoom through it and show how Steve...
Came out nice, though. I mean,
Steve
took a lot of time.
Steve taped up everything. So we see you again.
Take it easy.